One.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today's webinar, Communication in the Workplace. How can we avoid the misunderstanding with colleagues? My name is Chen Jinying and I'll be currently a level 3 student in tourism management at Asia Pacific University. And I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. So before we started the webinar, let me start with a few questions first. Have you ever had an internship where you couldn't get your work done on time because of the poor communication? And are you worried about how you can build a good relationship with your colleagues in your future internship? So today's topic is to uncover the workplace communication problems that we often encounter in our internship or daily work environment. So the speaker will help to analyze this problem and provide a sensible and effective ways to avoid the communication problems that may cause an obstacle in your internship or future workplace. So also during the presentation, if you have any questions, you can type your questions in the comments and there will be a Q&A session after presentation. And the speaker will answer all these questions. And now I would like to introduce our speaker for today. She's Ms. Gogulamathe Shamugam, and Ms. Gogu is a lecturer in the Media and Communication at Asia Pacific University and has 11 years of extensive experience in the broadcasting and communication industry. So today, Ms. Gogu will lead us to explore today's topic of a webinar and will provide us with help. So let's get straight into today's presentation and welcome Ms. Gogu.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you to the organizer of this webinar for inviting me here today. Now, a very warmest greeting to all the online viewers right now. I just hope that we can make this afternoon a fruitful listening, right? Now, today's topic is a very interesting topic, a workplace communication problem, and how can we avoid the misunderstanding with colleague. This is pretty much a useful topic for us to discuss, right? And for me to give a little bit of an insight, especially for those, because I know most of our viewers right now are pretty much students, right? So being a student who's going to be embarked into the career world and being a fresh graduate, a future fresh graduate, and even entering into an internship position himself, right? This topic will ideally give you an insight on what are the potential problems that you might be facing in your workplace environment, right? And most of the time, most of the interns, especially interns and also the new graduates, once they have once they have embarked into a new company, they will feel that this is the end of it. Getting a good internship, getting being hired in a good company, you feel that you have come to the end of your problem. You have done all your searching, you have done everything, and you're like, I'm done, right? I'm already gained the position that I wanted. But that is the biggest mistake that common mistake that most of this fresh graduate and interns will do, right? The fact that this is the beginning, the actual beginning of a new set of tribulation is uh, awaits for you, right? That is something that you need to always remember, that there is no ending in this career world, right? So before I proceed further, right, into this topic, into what are the communication problems that you might be facing in the future, I want you guys to first know what is communication, right? What and why communication is. As a person, to become a good communicator, to become a skillful communicator, you first need to understand how to process the message that you are conveying about, right? Being a good communicator, you need to actually understand the old term, right? I'm not going to give you the definition of communication and stuff, because the definition, if you go and Google it out, right, it's just vary, right? There's just too much of way of how you can interpret the word communication itself. But in today's topic, I just want you guys to understand, and I want to highlight on the word communication as in it is not as simple as how it sounds, right? Most of us will feel that I can communicate. It's just a communication. It's just that I'm communicating with a colleague, right? But how are you communicating? And the involvement not only through the verbal communication that we are speaking, verbal communication as in is not only the verbal, the spoken version or even or the written version, your non-verbal communication do play its role, right? So those are the things that I'm going to go a little bit, right? I'm going to touch on the non-verbal part of it slightly later, but I just want to touch that communication is literally a process that whereby most of us has this tendency of thinking that I can communicate. That is wrong. Most of the time when we have this thought of thinking communication occur in a discrete manner, that is something which most of us have a wrong understanding, because it is not about an individual communication, especially when it comes to the workplace setting, right? Communication is basically a relation, right? And when it is come to the workplace communication, you are communicating, you need to have this what you call this understanding on how can we communicate, because human communication is not something that can easily be done, right? And communication in the human communication form is not something that can be done over the day, right? Or in a day or over a short period of time. It takes time for you to live humans, right? So the fact that I want to say is that communication is a continuous process, right? So like I've mentioned, communication is not individual, it is more of a relational manner, right? Especially in a workplace setting, you need to have two individuals who are able to communicate with you, right? And you able to commit yourself, right? And this commitment, it can only occur when you able to develop a trust, you able to develop a respect, which trust and respect takes time, right? So like I mentioned, communication is not relational. I mean, communication is not individual, it is more of a relational, meaning to say you need to able to communicate with a number of people, especially in a group setting, because when we are dealing in a corporate world, you don't talk to yourself, you talk to people, right? When you are talking to people, it is more rather than what you have for other people, rather, what you do or how you talk to other people has to do with how other people are interacting back, right? Similarly, right, for example, if let's say you want to do you want to go for a dancing, okay, simple as you want to go for a dancing, right? When you are involved in that dancing, right, you need to have the sync, you need to have the same commitment level from your partner. If that person is failed in giving you that same commitment, you can't really have a proper coordination at the end, right? So in this case, when you are communicating with your colleagues, you need to make sure that you have that wavelength with them, the same wavelength. I'm not saying that you need to go deeper and understand them personally. No, you need to see how people are reacting back with the message that you are conveying to them, right? You won't have a leader if there's no one willing to follow the instruction. A good leader is someone who able to transmit, who able to instruct the people below, and these people will want to follow the instruction. Okay, in order for us to get that understanding, hey, look, I'm giving you an instruction and I want you to follow the instruction that has been given. In order for you to get that understanding, you need to have that, what you call, that relation in between. And like I've mentioned before, communication cannot be done, or it is not only about how you are talking verbally or how you are writing it out, Okay, in a workplace setting, very easy people give instruction, right? Especially when the instruction is coming from the upper management, right? But the thing is, are these people, the upper management or the level management, are the people at the below, are they willing to follow the instruction willingly? Why I mention willingly is because most of the time instruction is being given, people are just following the instruction, but are they willingly giving the answer that is being needed? A productive result can only be achieved if both parties are willing. Instruction is being given, people are okay in doing what is being asked to do, right? In order for this instruction to be done, because there will be a certain point of time whereby you will be a person who will be in the position of to give an instruction, right? And apart from just voicing it out, speaking it out, or even writing it out, right? Non-verbal communication do plays a primary relation. How can you build the relationship? Okay, sometimes an instruction can be given, but people might not really get the actual intention of you passing the instruction to me. This is where the barrier will happen. This is where the problem will occur, right? When a task is assigned to you, right? A lot of people, most of the time, why people are giving me this and not to that person? Why me? Because you don't understand the gist of how this message was conveyed. It could be we can blame how the sender actually transmitted the message to you. Another way to hinder all this problem is to use your nonverbal communication. Make sure you use your nonverbal communication to get the relation with you, to get the relation with the people. Building a relation with nonverbal communication. Right. Now, what I'm going to show you is that under this nonverbal communication topic itself is a big, to go into it, you can attend my class on nonverbal communication itself, right? But what I've picked up right now is being a communicator, because I want you guys, once you have embarked into this journey into your career, becoming an intern, or even becoming an employee yourself, right? I want you guys to understand how can you use non-verbal communication to build the relationship. Non-verbal cues will help you to manage your identity. Each one of us, we have our own identity. So what identity do you want to bring out? What identity do you want people to perceive you as? Non-verbal cues will help to define our relationship, right? A simple tap, a simple smile, all this gesture that you are giving to your partner, to the person that you are communicating, it will bring the gap, it will bring that bonding. Building a relationship with your colleagues is not as simple as how you communicate with the people that you know. Colleague will be colleague, right? There is this phrase people will say, colleague turning to be a friend, turning to be a family, right? But in order for us to go into those phases, right, you need to make an effort on building that communication, on building that bonding with these people. After all, these are humans, right? Some people will have this perception, colleague is a colleague, I don't mix them into my personal life. Why do you have that boundary? Why do you put that limitation in you? Right? You can have your professional way of communicating with these colleagues. At the same time, you can be yourself when you are communicating with them outside of the working career, right? And non-verbal cues can also convey your emotion. This is another part that I would like to highlight. When you communicate, right, you can use your non-verbal cues as seen when people are expressing something, when people are sharing something, try to be attentive. Attentive as seen listen, right? Listening is one of the things that are very much lacking in today's generation. Sorry to say, but this is the truth, right? People very hardly want to listen. People just want to jump in and express their opinion. Not saying it is wrong, but listen first. When you listen clearly, when you understand what that the other party is trying to tell, you will have a bigger picture, and even you will have a better understanding and better message to convey instead. Right? This leads to the second point of the day, which is communication equals to interpretation. To become a good communicator, you need to know how to interpret certain message. Most of the time, message get lost. Most of the time, message get misinterpreted because or message get misunderstood because of the interpretation that are not being done. Not by the sender who is sending the message, but from both parties. So how you communicate basically depends on how you interpret certain message. Positive interpretation will lead to operational connectivity, which means that you will build a connectivity, a functional connectivity. Negative interpretation will lead to incooperative or broken or defective connectivity. Right? So how you communicate, like I mentioned, how you communicate is basically depends on how you interpret. For example, right, if you happen to see a person, right, if happen to be someone, right, you may know me, you may not know, you may not really know this person. This person happens to smile at you far away, right? So how will you interpret the smile that are being given to you? These are non-verbal gesture. Let's assume you don't know this person, it's a complete stranger giving a smile to you. How will you interpret? If you're going to be interpreting it in a positive manner, right, you will just ask this, don't make things complicated. You will just assume that this person is trying to be polite. But if you want to interpret it in a negative manner, your interpretation will be, is, is this person interested in me? Why are you smiling at me? What do you want from me? Right? The curiosity, the hesitation that you might have on that smile that you received just now. Right? So this is something that need to be done. Right? And I will say it's good to have a positive interpretation, right? Especially when you are working in a group of colleague. If you were assigned a job that require you to work in a team, then positive interpretation will give you that functionality, that connectivity that can make you have that relationship without having that miscommunication happening within any one of you. Right? So I'm going to just give you another imagination over here. Imagine that you were assigned a group project, right? And the person that you were supposed to work with is someone who is very opinionated, right? Very vocal, very opinionated. And so do you, right? So both of you are very vocal, right? You guys have so many things to say, and you happen to be working in the same project. Okay. Therefore, in cases like this, right, this is where a lot of time problems will occur, right? In situation like this, chances for both of you to communicate can be quite a challenge. There will be conflicting idea. Very high chances for both of you to have conflicting idea. Very high chances for both of you to have this high ego in you. Why should I follow you? You follow me. That kind of mentality, right? So when that happens in situation like this, right, it is very important for you to interpret the message correctly. Positive interpretation. So in this case, right, when you talk to somebody who is equally, opinionated with you, right, how you should be interpreting positive manner, you should be more like, I'm working with this person, right, and I know he's very determined, so I'm going to listen, I'm going to give chance. It's okay to give in, right? I'm not saying that you don't voice out your opinion. Give chance for that person to talk, right? Digest those information first. Okay, as in your mind that this is a very determined person. I know this person, he will talk everything. So as that positive interpretation, because all you need to do right now is you need to build the connectivity. After all, at the end of the day, the management, they don't care. They just want the result. You need to complete the task, right? Um, there's a research over here which shows about 2 hours, of a time of an employee are being wasted just by worrying. Employee waste their time in the office just worrying about certain issue that is going on in the office, or they just waste their time on gossiping about the things that is going on in the office, right? So we need to reduce this. Time is money. This is what I will tell my student. Time is money, right? Every hours that you spend in the office has to be fruitful, has to be productive, right? So once you know that you're going to be dealing with this person, take all this personal opinion that you have about that person. Instead, just look into that person as okay, this is a very determined person. Every time I will ask so many things to discuss. So I'm going to go with the flow, right? I'm going to listen to what he has to say first. And then you start talking about your opinion, right? But if you ever, and if let's say you don't want to have that positive interpretation, if you want to have this negative interpretation, what will end up is that the more you work with that person, right? Because you guys are just sharing opinion after opinion, a lot of conflicting ideas. When you happen to be that person, you will get exhausted, right? And you will find this person to be very stubborn to work with, right? At the end of the day, both of you can't really come up with a mutual agreement while communicating. Okay, this is where you will start to go out and you will start to talk and you will bring this um, bad aura, bad vibes with you, and you don't really enjoy working, right? So that is all on how you interpret certain messages, right? Interpretation is very important, right? I'm talking about in the sense of a working space, right? But if it is a personal thing, then you might want to encounter, might want to really sit with that person and talk, and you are being there. But when it comes to the working space, right, you don't really have to be personal. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't bring your personal um, feel emotions to the place. This is workplace. At the end of the day, you need to give the result. A task has been given, you need to complete this task, right? And moving on, right? The self concept and communication with others, right? So what we're going to be seeing, or this figure that you are saying, is basically the relationship between the self concept and the behavior. Okay, so we're going to look into communication style. Most of the time, so I'm going to give an example from the point of fresh graduate and also interns, right? When you are communicating, if let's say you do have someone which is super senior, someone in a very high ranking position, right? So your style of communicating will eventually be very nervous. You will eventually you will come very nervous to talk to this authority figures, right? So the self concept over here is that you yourself, you are putting it in that position. The question is why? Okay, your communication style will follow based on who you look at. This is somebody, okay, how am I going to communicate with this somebody? This is a very high position person. I get nervous. I tendency for you not to communicate at all, or you may only say one or two words in which you are not. You are not that kind of a person. You can't really speak well. But because of this inferior conflict that might be there, yeah, your communication style might be different, which leads to your behavioral change. When you talk to this person, you start to stammer, blush, right? All this negative kind of a non-verbal gesture can be seen. You might be a very confident person, But because of this nervousness of knowing this is a public, this is a high figure authority, then your behavior will have slight changes. Okay, why? Because you already put in your mind that this is how it is. All I'm trying to say is that try to be normal. Be normal. Just be yourself. Right? Once you have this, when this behavior take over, right, the way that you respond to certain things might also be in a negative manner. Because you already give yourself a very negative feel that you are no one. If you are an intern, right, there are so many things that I know. If you're going to be comparing yourself with with a senior, obviously they're going to have a super knowledge. They're going to have a lot of things that they know. Okay, there will be a day for you to reach to that level. You are an intern. You are studying, right? I always tell my student that you guys are in the position of ask. You can ask any type of question to me. It can be as serious question as can. Nobody going to be blaming you because you are in that position. You are in the position of learning. So if you are entering into a career world for the first time, it's okay to be doing mistakes, right? So don't have this mentality in you. I'm just an intern. I am nobody. So when you look into all these I people and all this people with positions, you start to have this inferior conflict within yourself. And this is how it leads. Your behaviors change, the responses that you give will change, your perception of how people will think about you will also be very negative. Right? So you will start to communicate like they didn't think of me. And this cycle continues until you realize that you are there to learn. Until you realize that I'm an intern, I'm here to learn, I'm okay, and it is okay for me to make a mistake. Right? So instead of having all this uncomfortable events and uncomfortable style, why not when you communicate, right? Even though it is somebody which are in a very high position, try to be comfortable. I need to be close to with this person. I need to be close with my senior so that I can learn more. I'm here to learn. I need to see how they have come because even they themselves, they used to be an intern. They used to be a fresh graduate. Everyone came through this phase of life, right? So you need to be comfortable with all these figures, authority figures. When you might have this nervousness, I will always say it's okay to be nervous, but don't show it too obvious, right? You don't have to show it through your non-verbal gesture. Run away when you see someone, when you see your what do you call your boss or your manager coming. Oh, I don't want him to see me. Just run away, go away somewhere else. Yeah, try to avoid it. Try not to do that, right? Speak calmly. Okay, try to speak calmly. Try to speak smooth, calm, smooth, and get that flow of fluency when you are speaking. Okay, show that through behavior, right? So people will have this better positive impression. People will say that you are a very confident person, right? And people will look at you. You are here because you want to learn. I can see that in you, right? And other responses will also be more in approval. They will want to be more cooperative with you rather than disapproving or doesn't, rather than being unresponsive towards you. Because when you are showing all this negative attitude, people will see like, "Ah, it's a waste of time talking to you." Right? But when you be very positive and you talk calmly, even though you might not really know things that much, but it's okay because you are there to learn, isn't it? Right? Be very calm, speak fluently, right? And then you will see other responses to you will also be in a positive manner. People will try to be more cooperative. They want to communicate more. They want to even, they want to interact with you even more, right? Even the perception of the whole event will have a better change, right? And you might even think that I've handled this, right? If let's say your internship period, the few weeks that you're going to be with the company, you will at the end of your internship period, you will tap your shoulder and you will say, I've handled the situation better, right? So the self concept, communication always starts from you. We cannot control how people communicate. We cannot control other people's behavior, but you can control yourself. So self-realization, self-concept, and how you communicate with others are very important in order for you to minimize all the problems that might be occurring in the future. Right? And this is something that I would like to share. These are some of the common internship communication type challenges that interns might be facing, right? Some of you might know, right? Or even the fresh. I won't say only applicable for interns, but this is pretty much to most of us as an employees, as myself, or even if you are an employee who is watching this, you might relate to this. Unnoticed work, right? If you are very new, right, to the organization, you have been working hard, right? Some of your work might not really be that noticeable, right? People might not really recognize your work, right? And especially when we're going to relate it to the internship, obviously, you might be like very enthusiastic, entering to the workplace, and you wanted to do a lot of things, right? But if, let's say, at the end of the day, if your works are not being appreciated, you might feel that disappointment, right? You might somehow feel discouraged. Okay. You might feel that why people are not really appreciating. Is it not enough? Is my work is not really enough for them? Right? This is where it's leading back to this self-concept. You are bringing negative energy, negative thoughts in the way that you do your work, right? So when you have this, the solution will be always remember internship, especially, it's very challenging, right? Try to understand that that there will be time where your work will go unnoticed, right? People might ignore it, but people are not going to ignore it like forever. Show more, show the continuous performance, right? Don't do your work just to, how to say, I'm going to do this because I want people to know me. I mean, eventually, yeah, but you need to do your work, and you need to give that performance a constant performance, right? A continuous performance, a well performance, right? And there will be a time whereby people will notice you, right? And you need to put, if you have put in 100%, if you think that you have put in 100% and people don't really notice your work, the next time when you do the same thing, do 200, give 200%, 300%, right? So unnoticed work during internship period is very normal, very common. Don't get it personally. Just move on and do better. Okay, the more thing that you are doing, and eventually you are learning, you're going to be learning, you're going to be getting a lot of experience out of it. Uncooperative mentor. This is something. If you are lucky enough, you will end up with a good mentor who is there to help you out throughout your internship period. But if you do end up with an uncooperative mentor, which you will, right? Some of my students did come to me and they will say, my mentor is not guiding me well, miss, right? It's okay, right? How much you are learning in during your internship period is largely depends on how you are building the connection with the connection, not only with the mentor, but the people around the company, right? So if, let's say, your mentor is not being cooperative, if they are not really guiding you that much, right? You need to know what you are not doing, right? Or what you need to do to get the attention of your mentor, right? If your mentor is not really giving or spreading the knowledge enough, right? Probably could be your mentor has a different way of approaching the people. Like sometimes some people, they might not really like what you call the mentee coming with a lot of question, right? If that happens, okay, what you need to do is that don't go to your mentor frequently. Hey, I have this question. Hey, I have that. Frequently go and ask a question. It's not your fault for asking question. I won't say it's your fault because you are there to learn. You obviously you're going to have a lot of questions. but how you approach that question and how you address that to the person. List down the question instead. Collect all the questions that you ask. One time, go and ask, right? And try to be more concerned and try to understand that person, your mentor situation, because your mentor is someone who is working in that organization, right? And they will be like assigned an intern. Hey, and a new intern is coming to our department. I want you to mentor, right? It is not something that are being given. It is some an additional work to your mentor, right? So we can't really expect these people to really give us a full cooperation, right? So try to be in their position as well, right? And try to make their life easier. Don't be a mentee that are going to be like a burden to your mentor. Your mentor needs to be enjoying, guiding you, right? So like I said, it's depending. If you are lucky enough, you will get a good mentor. If you are not, it's not because the mentor is wrong or because you end up with the wrong. It's just that situation. Okay, it could be a stressful situation for both, right? So all you need to do, how can you overcome it? So if you think that approaching your mentor too many times might lessen up or might make the mentor not to really give a cooperation with you, bring a list of questions to that person, right? Another point or another common challenges that you might be facing is allotment of trivial works. This is a very common thing. Getting trivial work, meaning to say getting job that you might be expecting, okay, I'm going to learn so many things, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like for example, let's say you enter into an advertising agency and you have this perception, I'm an intern in this advertising agency, I'm going to design so many advertisements, but end up they only ask you to do like okay, go and do a tea for me, right? Which should not be happening, but if it happens, still okay, right? Because it is still a job. When you make a coffee, you are making a commitment. You are getting that instruction and you are doing it without a complaint. And people want to give you more work, right? All this trivial work that you might be seeing, like maybe people just ask you to just arrange this table, or maybe they just ask you to just put in some very administrative work which can be done by anybody. They ask you to do, is okay for you to do, right? Don't go with the expectation that you're going to learn everything about the organization, everything about the company, everything about the job scope, everything that you have learned in your 3 years of study. You won't be getting everything in during your internship period. It's bits and pieces. Okay, all this trivial work will also give an impression about who you are. If you're being choosy, you are being very hard to handle. That is the perception that management might be having, right? So it's okay, it's normal, right? Because eventually they're not going to ask you to just do coffee for them for the entire internship period, right? So it's a process, okay? And then we have assistants to ask questions, right? Communication is one of those internship challenges that um, the intern will ask this. I'm just an intern, right? Um, for me to ask question should be really a good question. If you like I mentioned, right, you can ask any question, but when you are in an actual corporate world, right, try to ask question which really needed, which you really do not know the answer and you want to know the answer. Apart from that, right, when you ask question, what you do is that try to find the answer on your own first, right? When you find the answer, what you do, try to go and ask the question to make an affirmation, right? So when you ask the question, you show that I know the answer, but I just want to confirm it with you because you know better. right? So this is where most of the time, another point is that some of the interns, they will feel that if I ask question, people might judge me because I do not know the answer, right? In order for you to avoid that judgment, this is what I say, try to find for an answer first. You might not really get everything, but something, a research that can be done prior to the question that you ask, right? So when you go, you are not really go blankly with an empty question to ask with them, but you do have a little bit of knowledge just to get some confirmation. I know this, but I'm not really sure. Can you elaborate more? I do have a little bit of point, but I need further elaboration in this, right? So that is another. And last but not least, competitive core intents. Sometimes you might be joining an internship company whereby you are the only intern. Sometimes you might be ending up in a company whereby you have few interns, co-interns with you, right? So when you have this co-interns, the problem will be other interns might be very high spirited. They might be working really hard, right? You might feel intimidated, right? So the competitiveness of intimidated with other interns will be there, right? So most likely you will be like, your expectation will be like, this place is very competitive for me to learn, right? If like, I do have some student who came to me and they even shared with me, they told me that, Miss, you know what, I've joined this company and my supervisor always tell that previous intern did a good job. The comparison that the seniors are doing, that can also be very competitive for you. So at the end of the day, right, you will feel very challenged. So even if you want to communicate, you feel, even if you want to ask a question also, you feel that, will they judge me or not? Right? So this competitiveness is another problem, right? So how can we solve this? Right? In contradictory, what you can do, competitiveness is always better. If you ask me personally, fine. If you're going to be comparing me with another intern, fine. Right? I'm here to learn. Okay, if you think that I'm not good enough, I will be good enough one day, right? Because all you need to remember is that it is good to be in an environment where you can be the best among the best, not in an environment where you are the best among the worst. We don't want to end up in that. If you are best among the best, you need to have this competitive spirit. It's okay if your interns are competitive. It's okay if you are trying a level better, but you are not really achieving to their level. Fine. At least you have put your effort in. Right? And once you have realized all these challenges that you might be encountering in the future, right? You will know how to communicate better. Right? Instead of putting it in yourself and not communicating at all and end up mumbling about, people do not really, I don't like this internship place, I don't like this company, right? Instead of doing that, why not you change your perception? Why not you change the way that you interpret certain things that is happening around you, right? With that saying, I'm going to end my presentation, right? Thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Miss Gogo. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. And now Miss Gogo will answer the question. So let me check. So the first question is from Dian. So when I enter a new workplace, how do I build a better relationship with my colleagues through the appropriate verbal communication?
Very good question, Zian. Right. When you enter a workplace, how can you build a relationship with your colleague through verbal communication, appropriate verbal communication? Now, be positive when you are talking. Verbal communication is the spoken version that we are looking at, right? So when you, the non-verbal is that, when you talk, you just give smile and be more approachable, right? When you are talking with your colleagues, try to be friendly. Bring that friendliness manner in you, right? Some of you might be saying, Miss, I'm a very introvert person. I don't really like to interact. I'm an introvert as well. I don't talk much, right? Let me tell you, I don't talk much. But if I want to build my identity, right? And being an intern is where you need to build that identity. I will take any risks that I need to, I will do whatever I need to make sure that I build an identity for myself, right? So as a verbal communication, as in talk to that people, even though you are an intro, even though you don't speak that much, try to be approachable, try to talk. You don't have to wait for the seniors to start the conversation. You started off. Go and greet the people, right? That's one way that you can do.
Okay, thank you, Miss. So, for the next question is from Kurma. So, how should we deal with the colleagues that the bad mouth us?
Colleagues that badmouth us, ignore. Why do you take things personally? I did mention this earlier. When you take things personally, this is where you get hurts, right? You really get things personally, and you bring that, and you feel that the entire environment feel like a toxic environment to work with, right? You will have certain colleagues with you that you are very close with. You can share what you feel, right? You can even, if you want to, you can even confront that person, right? There's no harm in confronting that person, but you need to see worthwhile or not. If you confront, is it worthwhile? Is it worth your time to do that? If no, just ignore, proceed, act professional. You are there to work, you are there to complete a task, you are there to, complete, you are there to achieve your own achievement, your life achievement. Go towards that. Ignore all this negativity.
Okay, thank you, Miss. So, for the third question is from Theo. So, how do I handle situations where I encounter unfriendly leaders during my internship?
If you very high likely you will find unfriendly, uncooperative leaders during your internship time, let me tell you, right? Because they feel that most of the time this happen because they feel that they don't have time for the intern, right? It's not that they jump into it, they dislike you like that. It's just that their perception is that interns, they don't know, they do not really do much, they don't really have much knowledge, and I can't really give them the work. So what you can do in this case, if your leaders are being very uncooperative, you try to talk to them. Can you assign me? Can I try to help you out? You need to step the foot up, because if you don't bring yourself and if you don't show that you can do something for them, they will never open their door for you. So you need to knock on their door and show them that I'm here to do something for you. Please allow me to do that. Right? So if they are unfriendly, leave it. You be friendly. Right? Internship is whereby you need to take off whatever mask that you are wearing. You don't have to have any ego at this point of time. No. Right? Walk into this people, this senior, talk to them, because at the end of the day, right, you have your own selfish thing that you want to achieve. You want a knowledge. You want knowledge from them. You want experiences. You are there to gain this. So, yeah, you be friendlier to this uncooperative leaders.
Okay, so the next question from Kaixin. If I go out to work with a senior colleague, how should I avoid the embarrassment or prepare something?
If you go out with senior colleagues, out to avoid embarrassment. Mm, I'm not sure what kind of embarrassment the student is trying to ask, but you can do some preparation. Preparation as in try to know a little bit about the senior colleagues that you are going with. A little bit of research, right? How this people, how the senior colleagues are, right? You can be when you are going. Maybe it could be during a lunch hours when you are going out with senior colleague, right? Try always be yourself, right? At the same time, if something happen, if let's say some one of the seniors say something, or maybe even say some negative or maybe critique about certain things that you do, just tell them that I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I'm literally here to learn. I really hope that you guys can guide me. This kind of positive interaction that you give, right? Doesn't matter how bad your senior is, they will low down and they will try to create that bonding with you.
Okay, so for the next question is what can the interns do if they feel they're being bullied at their workplace or maybe felt overworked?
Feel bullied and feel overworked is something that you might also happen. Feel bullied, I feel it's depending, right? How severe the bully is. If it is too severe, which distract your mental health, then you need to really, address this issue to your um, what do you call your university supervisor, right? But if it is just a bully in terms of they looking down on you, as in you might not really know your job, you can't really do your job, right? In that case, you need to change their mentality, right? But if let's say you are giving too much of work, you are being overworked, right? Which might happen, yeah, especially if you are attached to this small organization where they have less employees and they highly depend on the interns, you might end up with a lot of work. One thing that you need to remember, overwork is good because you're going to be getting a lot of experience. But if it is too much of overwork, you can address that to your um, to the company, the company supervisor himself. Try to tell them that a lot of things are coming. I'm still in the learning stage. Can you give me some time frame or not for me to complete? Or else I just feel too much for me to enter. I will complete that, but I need some time for me to get it done. Right? By this, right? If you're not communicating, you will never know. If you sit and you just presume that too much of work and why this company is doing that, but you never talk to that person, then you will never know whether they're going to give you that time or not. Right? That's one way of
Yeah.
dealing with that.
And here's the question from Yeli. So, what to do if I have a difficult when dealing with a coworker, like arrogant, so feel good about myself or disregarding the feelings of the others?
If you are feeling with coworker, arrogant coworker, um, that's their problem, right? If they are arrogant, leave it. Like I mentioned, who are we to judge other people? But how you behave. If you think that you can't really have a communication with that person, right? Make it professional, right? Don't, I keep repeating myself, don't make it personal, right? But you need to feel good about yourself either, at the same time. So, um, let me tell you guys, dealing with people, co-workers is going to be very challenging, right? But we cannot change these people. You need to always remember that we cannot change people, but you can change yourself, isn't it? Right? How are you going to be dealing with these people? This is how he is, or this is how she is. How am I going to be reacting? Right? Don't put any barrier like I hate you, I'm not going to talk to you. Don't do that because you need to act professionally. Your approach going to be different with this kind of a people.
Okay. Here's the question from Silai. So, if you have been locked down upon my senior colleague, what can I do?
Being locked down upon by senior colleagues, locked down completely, then it's a big issue. But locked down by senior colleagues, again, it's a matter of what situation, in what context, right? Was it because you have done something, um, like it could be maybe because you have done something wrong and they were dissatisfied and they don't want to give you any more further to what have already been done because they feel that you are the person, if I give you, you won't be able to complete that according to what I wanted. If that's the issue, then you need to build back that confidence. You need to go back and approach that person and you tell them, I'm sorry, I did a little bit of a blunder previously, but I'm here, I'm gonna give me a little bit of a chance, right? So you need to build that confident level back again. But if it is something that immediately it was shut down, then obviously you need to talk to somebody else and try to open back the door that was shut down earlier on.
Okay, here's our last question. So from Jeremy, do you think that keeping the quiet is better than being the misinterpreted?
Keeping quiet is depending, because if you keep quiet, you're not going to learn anything, especially being a fresh grad, especially being a intern. You need to be open, right? You need to be open, you need to be approachable, you need to be somebody who are there. People need to notice you, right? But misinterpretation might happen. It could be because of the way that you have done, right? So I will say that don't be quiet. If you are being misinterpreted, learn from that. You need to know why people are misinterpreting you. In what sense? Because if you are being quiet at throughout, right? When are you gonna learn? Right? Misinterpretation most of the time happens because you have done something. So what have you done? Right? Notice that problem and then work for the solution upon that. All problems as a solution. So if there's a problem, a noticeable problem that you have encountered, that you have noticed, that you have done, then try to find for a solution. What can you do?
Okay, and one more question for Sarah. So my director in my previous internship have a hard time dealing with his personal issues and don't believe in getting help from the
Psychiatrist. Should I tell you this?
psychiatrist. How should I deal with this if it happens again?
So this director was facing personal issues. All right. Not you, it's the director, right? Believe in. So if this happened, my next question will be, does it affect your work directly? If it does, then you need to talk to somebody which is much higher. But if it is something to do with the director and the personal issue, if it is not directly affecting you, in the way that you do your job, then I think let that personal issue to be solved by the director itself, because we are not in the position of doing the what you call consultation over here, isn't it? You are there to learn. So if, like I said, if that personal issue is not affecting you, then leave it as it is. But if it does affect you and you are not really learning much, then you need to seek the help of other senior members, right? If it is because you mentioned about director, someone is already in a high position, so you need to deal it with having a better conversation with your senior members and try to see what you can do in order for you to have a better communication, because at the end of the day you don't want this personal issue of your director jeopardize your work.
Okay, and one more bonus question from Catherine. So what is the limit to being the mistreated and knowing when to leave the company?
The limit of mistreated and knowing when to leave the company, this is actually a very good question, right? You need to know what is your goal in when you attach to a company. Each one of you are going to be end up in a different career, right? What is your career goal, right? What do you want to achieve? So as a person, as a fresh graduate or even an intern, right, you need to give a time frame for yourself. How long do you think that you can attach, and how much of information do you want, or how much of experience do you want to learn? Being a fresh graduate, being an intern, intern is basically you already have a timeline. If you are a fresh graduate, right, this is a moment where you are very much open to explore the career world. Don't be stagnant, right? Don't be the loyalty to one company. It doesn't start when you are in the fresh graduate period. All right, fresh graduate, you jumped to different companies, try to get more knowledge. But if you are being mistreated, right, it is going back to how severe it is. If you are being mistreated and at the point that you are not really learning anything from this company, you are not achieving your career goal, leave immediately. Why are you there? Why are you wasting your time? But if you think that you are gaining a lot of experience, but there are some hiccups along the way, and you think that you can bear with that, give you a little bit of a time frame, 1 2 years, right? So I cannot give you like I cannot say that okay, 2 years, 3 years. It's depending on your own career goal. Set a career goal, have a purpose. What do you want to achieve, right? Then you proceed from there. You will know when to leave when the right time comes.
Okay. Okay, thank you again, Ms. Goku, for answering all those questions and for the great presentation for today. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. And thank you all for attending and hope you have all have a nice day. And don't forget to fill up the feedback form to get the e-certificate for today's webinar. That's all for today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goku. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.